I hope at least some of you bought a copy of this very important book. Did you? Say yes if you bought a copy. Say yes even louder if you bought 2 copies. Oh, good. As I said earlier on, all the proceeds are going to UNRWA. 50% of the profits of tonight's event are going to medical aid for Palestinians. I'm very happy for the second part of tonight's event to be joined by 3 extraordinary people. Ahmed Alnaouq, Yara Eid, and Tareq Baconi. They all feature in this book. Tareq's longer piece is, I believe, the introduction of your book. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
Very, very interesting and highly pertinent given the ceasefire. I'm going to ask each of you a few questions, and I think you're all going to want to feed in, and then we'll have a broader conversation. Ahmed, I want to talk to you. Tell us all here tonight, what happened to your family in Gaza in October 2023?
Thank you very much for having me first. And I'm glad you asked me this question, and I know many of our friends here heard this story 100 times maybe, but I'm glad you asked it, because since that day happened, I promised myself and I promised the world that I will keep telling the story of my family every time until the day I die. And Aaron, I had a very big family in Gaza. I had a father, a mother, I had 8 siblings in Gaza. Most of them married with lots of children. We always were very happy and proud that we are a very big family, and I used to enjoy it. I used to love it very much. And when, at the beginning of the genocide, my married sisters chose to come to my family's home. Why? Because they thought that this home, this area in the Gaza Strip, is the safest place they can be. My 3 sisters and all of their children, my brothers, my 2 brothers, my father, all of them were sleeping in my home on the 22nd of October when Israel dropped the bomb, killing all of them. 21 members of my family were cut into pieces. They were all killed instantly. This is what happened on the October 22nd.
21 family members, and I think 13, 14 children?
14 kids under the age of 13. Some of them were only 2 years old, 3 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. 14 kids were killed in a second.
And of your siblings, how many were there?
So I lost 2 brothers and 3 sisters. And when they were killed, I asked my neighbors or my cousins who went there, I asked them to take pictures of my dead family members, and none of them did. Do you know why? Because all of them were cut into pieces. They did not have faces. They did not have bodies. They were cut into pieces. And until now, I don't know how they looked. One of my brothers-in-law told me that he went to the home to see his children, and he could not recognize his children because their faces, their heads were crushed. All of his kids under the age of 13. One of them was 5 years old, one was 6 years old, one was 10 years old. They were cut into pieces. What did they do? Nothing. They were Palestinians. They were just sleeping in their home. That is the story of my family. And on that day, I stopped counting how many family members, how many relatives, how many friends I lost, because they're countless.
That's really, really extraordinary. I'm very, very sorry to hear that. These are kids that you've helped change their nappies, you play with them, you've given them milk, you've told them stories, and they're gone.
Some of them would call me father, because I was very close to them.
When you see journalists or politicians in the West minimize what's happening in Palestine, Gaza specifically, given your personal story, given that horrendous story you've just told us, how does that make you feel? Do you feel like they're not in receipt of the facts, or is there something deeper going on? Why are they so unwilling to accept stories like the one you just said?
These people know the facts. They're not stupid people, they're smart people. They know exactly what is happening. I met with some of them, with many of them, and they told me they know that Israel is committing genocide. They know that Netanyahu is a war criminal. But they just don't care. They don't see me as an equal human being. They don't see me equal to the Israelis who are occupiers, who occupied our land. They see me as the other, and they see Israel as them. So for them, I am the other. I am surplus. I'm subhuman being. I don't matter. They don't care about us. They don't care about me. These people are racists. And this what racism does to people. It makes them less caring. It makes them ugly. It makes them ugly, truly ugly. And this is how I feel for them. They disgust me. When I see a man or a woman, when I see a human being who is so indifferent to genocide, to their brothers and sisters being slaughtered day and night for 2 years, and they don't care about them, they disgust me. I'm disgusted with them. I am not like them. They're not like us. They're not like you. They're different. And these people need to be named and ashamed. For the rest of their life, they need to be ashamed of themselves.
Has it surprised you that there are mainstream media and political figures in this country, when they're presented with images and videos, which we've all seen, of the kinds of scenes you're describing, there are people in this country, like I say, in mainstream public life, who have said, that's not real, it's fake, it's Pallywood, they deserved it. Has that kind of response surprised you? From people who are on our TV screens and radio studios and whatnot?
Aaron, I was told in my face that my family are collateral damage.
By who?
By Talk TV presenters. They told me that my family do not matter. They don't care.
My last question, because this is really powerful, and I'm very honoured that you can be so honest and lucid with us here. But you write in this book, which again I really do recommend to people, it's incredibly powerful. It is a testament to what's happened over the last 2 years. Maybe the testament. You say in the book that you are unable to cry in regards to things that have happened in real life. You might watch some soppy film and then you'll be in floods of tears. Explain that. Emotionally, how has this changed how you regulate your feelings as a person?
For the past 2 years, when I have always envisioned the day that this genocide will end, when the bombing stop, I thought that this would be the happiest day of my life. I thought I was waiting so eagerly for this moment where they announced that, okay, the genocide is over. But when it happened, I felt numb. I did not feel anything. I was not happy. I was not sad. I was not relieved. I felt nothing. And this numbness started the day after Israel killed my family. I argue in this chapter that this genocide has broken something inside of us that made us not normal anymore. It has, I'm sorry to say it, but it fucked us from the inside. We're no longer feeling the same apathy or sympathy, or we no longer feel the usual emotions that normal people are feeling. And my wife is here, and I would like to send her a shout out. She's an amazing woman, and she just escaped Gaza 2 days before the genocide started. And I wrote in that chapter when Israel killed her brother, his older brother, a few months ago. And when she was really devastated, she was devastated to hear the news that Israel killed her brother. And I looked at her and I did not feel anything. I saw my wife crying. I saw her in deep distress. She was devastated for the loss of her brother, and I felt nothing. And she even was annoyed with me because I did not embrace her. I did not support her. But something inside of me has changed forever. It made me devoid of empathy anymore. And I hate that about myself. And I hate that about how we feel right now, Palestinians. And it is me, a Palestinian, who lost 21 members of his family, and it was devastating. It was it is horror and all of that. But me, compared to the Palestinians in Gaza, I am the most privileged. Thousands of people in Gaza lost their entire families, but they have also lived 2 years of a genocide. So I do not understand how these people, how these Palestinians are feeling right now. And I think this trauma that they have lived, I don't think they can ever be treated from. I don't think that they can ever overcome this trauma, and I think they will pass it to their children and grandchildren. Israel has distorted us and has distorted many people who have been watching this genocide happen for the past 2 years. I don't believe any of us is normal anymore. What we have seen during the past 2 years, it will change us forever. And it will change how people view Israel until the rest of our time, until the rest of time. Because what they have done will never be forgotten and will never be forgiven. I will not forgive Israel. I will never forgive Israel. Not only for killing my family, but for destroying my mental health. And I think all of you will not forgive Israel. And I will not forgive you if you forgive Israel. I will not.
Can I just say, Ahmed, as well, there isn't a single pro-Israel journalist or politician or media figure in this country who would endure what you've endured and feel any differently, right? People talk about radicalization and pro this or anti that. If any normal person loses 21 members of their family, they will go to their grave trying to avenge what's happened. I know I would feel the same. I'm not suggesting you feel like that or any particular person feels like that. I certainly do, and I suspect the vast majority of pro-Israel voices who denigrate and attack you and the Palestinian people would feel exactly that way. Yara, I just want to come to you. We just had a moment ago how the ceasefire doesn't feel like a moment of optimism or positivity. Ahmed was saying that for years he thought this would be the happiest of moments, and yet it hasn't been. How have you felt in the days following the announcement of the ceasefire and a potential quote-unquote peace settlement?
Hi everyone, thank you for having me. I've been having quite difficult time since October started. It's, I think, the worst month for many of us. Some of you know me as Yara Eid, a Palestinian journalist from Gaza, war journalist. But those who don't know me should know that I'm just 25 years old. I'm just a girl who just wants to be maybe just going to the cinemas. I just graduated. I got an international job in London when it's, in September 2023. And since the day I was born, I couldn't choose anything in my life. We think that we are given choices in life, and I genuinely think that Palestinians don't have many choices. Yes, I've made the choice to be here. Yes, I made the choice to come right now and sit and live in the UK and become a journalist and report. But I think every single Palestinian has been put in a position where sacrifice and unfair sacrifices are at the center of their life. And a lot of the things Ahmed said, I resonate with. Me and Ahmed met when I was
16 years old.
Actually younger.
Younger?
15, 14, guys. I used to be intimidated by him. He was really nice though, but I was still intimidated. Because you were the founder of We Are Not Numbers, and at that time, it was like everyone wanted to write for you guys, And I wrote for you guys. That's how we got to know each other. But I'm gonna answer your question, don't worry, Aaron. I just love to go in circles. My ADHD has gotten much worse since the genocide started, and that's exactly what Ahmed is saying. I will never, ever, not even if I heal, forgive Israel for putting not only me, but millions of Palestinians and non-Palestinians, billions of people maybe, under tremendous psychological torture. It's not just mental health issues. They're torturing us by doing a genocide where most of the world is it fair to say most of the world, the citizens of the world, oppose what's happening? Is it fair to say that assumption? However, we still, like on the car here, I saw a picture of Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and Trump posing and shaking hands. And I knew that this picture is gonna come. I knew it. Everywhere this picture gets posted, every genocide, and I don't say war, but in Arabic, by the way, the Palestinians who say war on stage is because in Arabic it's called harb, but it's not really harb. We need to change colonial languages, and that's what a lot of Palestinians are trying to do. But when it's ingrained within our systems, when our education system is getting approved by Israel, you know that our education system in Palestine has to go through Israel first. They cannot teach us what they want to teach us. Imagine. I have so much to tell you today, and maybe my ADHD is not gonna make it very sophisticated words, but what I know is, as Yara Eid, if you ask any of my close friends before the genocide to describe me in 3 words, this silly thing where you sit with your friends and, I don't know, we've all been through it. Actually, job interviews ask you that. So I was applying to a job interview and they asked me to describe myself in 3 characters, in 3 characteristics, 3 adjectives, And I think now my 3 adjectives are angry, and fucking angry. And I never used to be an angry person. I mean, Ahmed knew me as a kid. I was a happy kid. I lived through a massacre. I was a survivor of the 2014 Black Friday massacre, which it took me 10 years to Google, by the way, because I didn't want to know any details about it. I've lived it. I don't want Amnesty International to confirm, but I only looked at it 2 days ago, after the ceasefire was announced a few days ago. And I found there's an Amnesty International report about the 2014 massacre. And you know why I'm mentioning this? Because I don't believe in ceasefires. Wait, now they're gonna think I'm a crazy calling for war, Yeah, let's continue the genocide, but that's not what I mean. I don't believe that Israel respects anyone or international law or people or is even an entity that's interested in humanity. It's a psychopath regime, it's a killing machine that's only interested in killing. Not only ethnic cleansing, but it's a bloodthirsty regime. And that's why in in 2 years exactly, we have more than 60,000 people murdered. And these are the ones we know about. To answer your question, I don't know if it's a ceasefire. I wanted to have good hopes. Ahmed talked a lot about feeling of numbness. I used to feel so much joy. Wallahi, I would be so happy if I eat sunflower seeds on a bench in Gaza. This was my happiest moment in life. I don't need anything else. I'm looking at the beach, I'm eating my sunflower seeds, and I'm talking to a friend. Right now, I probably have achieved, in my career-wise, what I wanted to achieve maybe in my 40s. I've achieved it at 25. I feel nothing. I used to be excited about meeting celebrities like, Benedict Cumberbatch, because I watched Sherlock Holmes. I was sharing a chair with him or the same room, and I didn't even recognize him. This is how a genocide changes you. You stop feeling excited. You stop feeling joy. You stop feeling happy. Not because we're depressed people. Actually, Palestinians teach the rest of the world how to love, and this is my part of the book. My part of the book, they asked me to write anything, and I said, you know what, I've written already something for the New Arab, which shout out to them because they're an amazing news source, and a lot of news sources are not being news sources. They're being a mouthpiece for Israel. BBC, Sky News. One Sky News, this is why they made me famous. I became famous because a white lady, and this is what she is, only a white lady. I'm not even gonna say anything else. She's not a presenter, because if she's a journalist and she was doing her job right, she wouldn't ask me, what did you expect would happen after October 7th? I didn't expect 90 members of my family to be killed. I didn't expect that on October 7th, my best friend, who is my soulmate and my camera person, would be killed. I didn't expect that my mentor and boss, Rushdie Sarraj, would be murdered after we booked flights together to go to Gaza. He wasn't even in Gaza when the genocide started. And I booked flights to go to Gaza 8th of October. I just got lucky. My passport was with the Home Office. I was renewing my visa. And that's why I couldn't go to Gaza. But I would have been there, and I probably would have been killed with Ibrahim, or kidnapped like my two other colleagues, because they were reporting on Erez crossing, and they bombed them, and we don't know anything about Haytham Abdel Wahid or Nidal Louhidi, who are my colleagues. And today I was watching beautiful scenes of Palestinians being reunited, but I couldn't even feel the joy, because I'm like, this is the bare minimum. They should be with their families. Why are they being kidnapped? And a video stuck in my head, I think you all saw it, of a Palestinian, I think she's his daughter or his sister. I couldn't even read, because I just started weeping when I saw the video. And the political prisoner was released but was exiled. Imagine if Hamas did the same. Imagine if we told the Israeli hostages cannot go back to what's called Israel, which is an illegal entity. That's not even a country, in my opinion, and many people's opinion. It's an occupying power. That's it. Imagine if Hamas decided, imagine if it's the other way around. And I'm not condoning, I'm not supporting Hamas or not. This is not what we're talking about here. I'm not gonna be condemning Hamas right now, because this is what every news anchor asked me. In every interview, almost every interview I've done for traditional media, traditional Western media, the first question they would ask, do you condemn Hamas? How many times did they ask you, Ahmed, do you condemn Hamas? When your whole almost your whole family was wiped out. Am I a spokesperson for Hamas? Do you see, Ahmed? If we were, we wouldn't be in the UK. Dumbass. And we get, you know what's pissing me off the most? You see how angry I am, right? I've never been angry on stage. But today, I am really angry. Because this Palestinian political prisoner should be in Palestine. Yes, he's alive, but he should go back to his home. He shouldn't fucking get exiled, guys. He shouldn't be deported of his own land. And he probably was born there. And then some Europeans decided that they have the right to the backyard of Muhammad al-Kurd, my friend. You know, Mona al-Kurd and Muhammad always say it. You know, why are we paying the price, you know, of the Holocaust? Why are Palestinians paying the price of a horrific incident that happened in history? And, you know, the more I go to protests, the more I meet people, I see my beautiful Jewish friends supporting us. And this is what I believe. I believe that actually religions would never, what Israel is doing is just using Judaism. This is the most anti-Semitic thing that they could do. And we're being called anti-Semitic. I've actually met people who don't know the difference between Jewish and Zionist. And I'm there as a Palestinian journalist educating them about the difference between Jewish people and Zionists, and that our fight is against Zionism, not a religion, not people who are actually in the religion. They're saying that Israel is destroying the religion, using their names. And you know what? They call them self-hating Jews. That's so anti-Semitic, guys. Don't you think so? And do you know how many times people like me, like Tareq, like Ahmed, have been called and they used and they weaponized the word anti-Semitism. And I never talk about this, by the way, but because I'm angry, I'm gonna talk about it. Do you know how many times they've weaponized it? They've called us anti-Semitic. Are you stupid? It's like telling a gay person you're so homophobic. La, really? We're Semites, guys. Arabs are Semites. So am I anti myself? Like, I don't get it. Am I anti myself? And I've lived here long enough to know that they can weaponize it to silence us. We have the ayat sharia policy, where I cannot write academic articles freely enough because if I criticize Israel, it's called anti-Semitic. But they can write, and I lived with, you know that I went to boarding school in Wales, how random, but yeah, I did. I mean, I love the sheep there. So many sheep, guys. And the greenery, wow. You know, I came from a refugee camp where I've never met an Israeli, where I was a massacre survivor, and the only Israelis I've met were the ones I saw on TV. And I don't know if you've met Israelis before you came here. And, you know, they're like, you know, I get pissed when I see people game. It actually triggers me. Like, no offense, guys, love gaming, sure, or whatever, but it triggers me because I know that for them, they're gaming. They're dropping the bombs, and they're not even hiding it. They think we're in a game kind of scenario. They're using, what are the names of the games? Counter-Strike? I don't know, like, yeah, you know the ones? And this is the scenario of Gaza. For the longest time, before the genocide. You know, there was no, at least in my lifetime, there was no Israeli presence in Gaza. There was no soldiers like the West Bank. And the West Bank, oh Lord, it's another story. Or 1948 land, oh Lord, another story. Or Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, and then Western Jerusalem. Guys, they're dividing us to the point that I cannot see my best friend who's from Jerusalem because she's in Jerusalem right now. And the only way we can see each other, if I stay in the UK and she can have a visa to the UK, and that's where we meet. We cannot meet in our own home, in our own land. Let me tell you a funny fact. I've never even been to the West Bank as a Palestinian. How many of you in the audience, I cannot see you, how many of you have been to the West Bank, to Palestine? Yeah, show of hands. We're seeing quite a few, no? I mean, I'm happy for you. But I'm really pissed at the world, not at you. Go to Palestine, you know, support us. We need you to rebuild Gaza, by the way, because someone like me, I cannot go to Gaza right now. But we need you. We need the people, like, we really need the people who went on the flotilla. You know, this was one of the bravest missions. And you listened to one of the flotilla members today, shout out. And all of these people, all of you being here tonight, is the reason why Israel is so threatened. Because they know that the most of the world right now is on the Palestinian side. And this is the scariest thing to them. And I'm gonna leave some time for Tareq, but guys, I didn't want kids before. So if you're single, you should marry Palestinians. We need more Palestinians in this world. I'm probably gonna have 12 babies now, even though I never wanted kids, because I need my little army of Palestinian Yaras, you know? And we are gonna free Palestine. If it's not in my lifetime, it will be in my children's time. If it's not in theirs, no, that's too long. It will be. As long as we have you guys. So just remember that. No, that's not the goal. The goal is not just a permanent ceasefire. The end goal is a free Palestine. And as long as we have people like you with us, we will free Palestine, and they will get defeated, and we will choose love, and we'll teach the world how the Palestinians will teach the world how to love, and how that we love life. Quite the opposite. They say we love death, but we love life. And that's why, even though I've had a shitty day, I'm here today because I'm choosing life. Thank you.
Yara has the book there. Her essay in it is about parenthood in part. The brief part of it is about a couple with fertility issues, really trying to have children in the middle of a genocide. It's just utterly extraordinary. This impulse for survival and prospering and a future, a sense of the future amongst utter catastrophe. It's a really extraordinary essay. Before I come to you, Tareq, it's interesting, Yara, you said this is not a war. I started this event by saying that on this tiny strip of land about the size of the Isle of Wight, it's been subject to more munitions by weight than Hamburg, Berlin and London combined over the whole Second World War. Of course, the Germans and the Brits had an air force, okay? They had anti-aircraft fire. They could stop that happening. So all that munitions is being dropped on a tiny strip of land that can't even defend itself. It's just utterly extraordinary and without precedent, entirely without precedent, unless you want to maybe talk about Hiroshima and Nagasaki in terms of an asymmetry of power, entirely without precedent. Tareq, you have contributed a really, really strong, analytically interesting essay in this. It's the introduction for your book. You talk about October the 7th being, in your words, a paradigmatic rupture. What does that mean?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and it's such an honor and a pleasure to be with the both of you on the panel. It's a hard act to follow, the two of you, but I'll try to say a few words. The reason why I think October 6th was a paradigmatic rupture, I believe, and it's a very complicated day for Palestinians today, talking about the ceasefire and talking about some of the things that Yara and Ahmed were discussing, but I'll come back to that in a second. But the reason why I think it was a paradigmatic rupture is because it shattered the illusion at the heart of Zionism, I think in a way that is irreversible. Zionism is an ideology that claims to want to offer security and safety to world Jewry in Palestine by creating essentially a settler colony in a land that is not theirs. So emptying Palestine of its Palestinians in order to create a demographic reality where Jews can be the majority, and that is a way to provide security to international Jewry without having to deal with the fact that this settler colony is built on genocide and ethnic cleansing. And what October 7 did was it shattered the illusion that there can be safety for Jews without addressing the question of Palestine. So it essentially shattered, I believe, Zionism and Zionist ideology, that there can be a state for Jews in Palestine without having to deal with the indigenous population. And in some ways, everything, it's quite a timely gathering tonight, because everything we're seeing in terms of the ceasefire, in terms of the momentum of recognizing a state of Palestine, Mahmoud Abbas coming out with Trump, everything that we're seeing is an effort to put the genie back in the box. It's an effort to go back to October 6th, to say, actually, Israel is a democracy, it's a state among the nations, it wants a peace process, the peace process can now start again, Palestinians keep refusing peace, and to go back to a reality where the genocidal characteristic, which is intrinsic to Zionism and intrinsic to the state of Israel, is brushed under the rug. And we go back to this reality where we have an apartheid regime ruling indefinitely over Palestinians without ever getting to an endpoint. This is what this effort is. So all the language around let's recognize a Palestinian state, let's have a ceasefire, now we'll talk about some kind of reconstruction in Gaza, which will never happen as long as Palestinians do not have a say in their own future and their own reconstruction. All of this diplomatic speak is an effort to go back to October 6th, is an effort to go back to the paradigm which existed before, which is that Israel is a state that can be recognized and the Palestinians will just have to accept whatever crumbs they get. Never, obviously, self-determination, never justice for the Nakba, never the right of return, which are all internationally mandated rights. But they won't get any of those because they will always be stuck in a process that's going nowhere. That was the paradigm on October 6th. And we saw it. I mean, think about October 6th. By October 6th, it was the deadliest year for Palestinians and for Palestinian children in decades. And yet everyone pretends as if the starting point was October 7th. So October 6th, that paradigm was a paradigm in which Israel was just a nation state that was sort of accepted in the international community. And the Palestinian issue was not that interesting. It could be forgotten. You could think about it in humanitarian terms. You could maybe even think about economic measures that could placate Palestinians. But there was nothing that really challenged Israel or its right to exist. Then October 7th happened, and suddenly we're in a paradigm where we're not talking about partition and the two-state solution. We're talking about settler colonialism and Zionism and genocide and the Nakba. We're talking about the root causes of what this issue is, which is that there cannot be justice here until Israel is dismantled as a settler colony and the Palestinians are free from the river to the sea. Now we're talking about what we should be talking about. Now everything will try to return us back to October 6th. All of the language, all the diplomatic speak, it's not a coincidence that we have a ceasefire when there's pressure escalating in European countries, when sanctions against Israel are unprecedented, when the streets in Western capitals are talking about decolonization. They're not talking about state building and partition. They're talking about decolonization. They're talking about a free Palestine. When Yara says the goal is a free Palestine, what does that mean? It means that Israel ceases to exist as an apartheid regime. And we have a free Palestine from the river to the sea. Palestinians reclaim the homeland that they lost in 1948. This is the paradigm we're in today. Now, there's a lot of effort to try to take us back to October 6th, and this is why today is a complicated day. But I think that, and I hope and I pray that the groundswell, that what people have seen, the way that people, not just Palestinians, but people have been radicalized by this genocide. What Ahmed was saying, we've been changed as people, not just Palestinians. Humanity has witnessed a live stream genocide, and now we have an authoritarian president in the US sitting with a war criminal who heads an apartheid regime who has just committed genocide, talking about peace. If people have seen that, they understand that there's no going back, right? They understand that now justice is not reconstruction and another war criminal, Tony Blair, heading Gaza. That's not what peace is. That's not what justice is. So there's a radicalization that has happened among Palestinians and globally that has taken us back to the root causes of 48. And I think this is the language that we should be immersed in. This is the language that we should be using. When we're talking about freedom, we're talking about freedom, river to sea, full justice for Palestinians, right of return. This is the language. A ceasefire is important because Palestinians in Gaza have a respite, because aid is going in, because there's a minute break in the mass extermination that has been ongoing. But we should be under no delusion that this is where it stops, because the minute the international community deflects its gaze, the killing is going to resume. We cannot have a situation in which we go back to October 6th as if nothing happened in the interim. The world has changed in the interim, and we need to keep our eyes on the ball.
I mean, what's really interesting is a refrain I hear repeatedly from people in this country in Labour Party politics. And they say, look, we might do better in 2029 than we think because the whole Palestine thing will be less of an issue. And I just think, what planet are you guys on, right? Because it's not just Palestine, it's Iran, it's Lebanon, it's Syria, probably Turkey at some point, right? The whole of West Asia is entirely destabilized because of the political impulses of Zionism. You can be a Zionist and still think that. I'm not a Zionist and I think that. I know that. And it goes back to the point we were talking about with October 7th. And by the way, books are really important. It's almost Christmas, right? If you're a political activist, you can buy people gifts, but actually, you know, it serves a political purpose. Going back to that point about October 7th being this paradigm shift, and putting that genie back in the bottle, it doesn't go back in the bottle for the region. And I think this is something, again, we're in the fog of war, and there is so much media misrepresentation and omission about what we've just lived through. So you guys very beautifully and tragically have talked about the things that have happened to the people of Palestine. Iran has sent ballistic missiles that have hit Israel on multiple occasions. This wasn't a normal thing 2 years ago. Yemen's done the same thing as well. So the whole nature of this conflict has been so profoundly changed in the last 2 years. You want to come back, Yara, but I just want to go to Tareq quickly.
People know Palestine. They don't tell me I'm Pakistani. I say, where are you from? Palestine. They say, Pakistan. Now no one says that. I haven't been, I love Pakistan, guys, but I'm Palestinian. So people, the protests, because you're saying, look at the protests. Did this happen? Wembley, Together for Palestine concert. Would this happen? It wasn't allowed a year ago in the UK. So it's shifting, but we need to continue. I know you're fatigued, but imagine Palestinians, it's been more than 100 years. But let Tareq talk. When I'm angry, I talk too much, guys.
No, it's fine.
Sorry.
We're here to talk. I wanted to ask about Hamas. Because again, going back to that point I made about the fog of war, what we hear from the media is that 60,000 people died. It's almost certainly far more than that. And 40,000 of them are members of Hamas.
How much?
That's the line you get from politicians, is 40,000 of the 60,000 were members of Hamas. So, 2/3 of the casualties.
That means when I'm walking in the street, almost everyone I meet is either Hamas or not.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Gaza is very small, huh?
No, I know. So that's what they say. And your point in the essay is that actually Hamas has been subject to far less degradation than perhaps we're told. Things like the tunnels and so on. We heard so much about these tunnels, and we don't really see much of them being broadcast in the media, which you'd think would be quite a trophy for the IDF, right? So in terms of Hamas, have they crumbled? Have they just been degraded to a point of no return? What next in terms of their role? I'm not saying this in support of them. Daily Mail journalists. As a key player, which they have been for more than 20 years in civil society in Gaza, what next for them?
Well, before I answer that, I just want to answer the first half of your question around the region changing and part of the delusion of labor that, once we take this off the table, we'll be able to go back. It's not just that the region has completely been reshaped by this, Israel carrying out attacks on 6-7 sovereign states in the past 2 years. But what this genocide has shown us is I'm actually less interested in the region than I am interested in how it's shown that colonialism is not a thing of the past, and that Europe and the US still have a colonial mindset. So the reason why, what Yara was saying, that the Gaza specifically, Palestine generally, is the linchpin of global conversations is because it's put a mirror to the face of Western hegemony, that this is still empire, this is still colonialism. And you actually cannot just brush Palestine aside and forget that the boomerang has come into the metropole. It's returned. The issue of the colonial legacy is in London, it's in New York, it's in DC, it's in Brussels. So this is what the past 2 years have shown us. The world that we thought we were living in, of post-World War II international order, international law, the foundations, the ICC, ICJ, UN that were put in place to govern the world are actually a cover for Western empire. And And there can't be a return. There can't be a return now. We have to understand collectively as a global community how we actually create norms for governance that can have a just world, not just for Palestine, for climate justice, for the end of racism and discrimination. Palestine is the core of that. When we say a free Palestine, it's a free world. If Palestine now, the genocide is allowed to happen in a way that is just brushed under the rug, it means we've accepted that we live in a world that is ruled by American empire and by colonialism. And this has implications not just on Palestine, it has implications on racialized capitalism, on extraction, on climate justice, on race, on refugees, on migrants. We're basically choosing a world between justice and fascism, and the line is in Palestine. So I just want to sort of say that's why I think we can't put the genie back in the bottle, not the box. Thank you. The point about Hamas, listen, so this piece that's in this book that you read was, so my book about Hamas came out in 2018. And it was called Hamas Contained. And the day on, I was telling Ahmed before, on October 7th, too many people thought it was funny to send me a message asking if it should be Hamas Contained ? But the afterword was written a few months after October 7th, and now we're 2 years from that. So the question about Hamas's military not being as degraded then as it is today, obviously, Hamas has suffered a severe blow. I think Hamas has lost a lot of its leadership, a lot of its cadres, a lot of the infrastructure has been destroyed. But the point that I have been making for the past 2 years, which I still stand by today, which is that Hamas, this idea that Israel has that Hamas can be destroyed, is actually not about Hamas. It's a pretext for genocide. So when you say Hamas can be destroyed, you're basically saying I can get rid of everyone in Gaza.
I'm sorry, I have to cut you because exactly.
Yeah. It's not actually about because Hamas ultimately is an idea, it's an ideology. There will always be people who support armed resistance against an illegal apartheid regime. It's also armed resistance.
So are those interchangeable then? Because
Sorry?
there'll be people, is that interchangeable then? Because there'll obviously be people, including in the West Bank, who support that idea of armed resistance against occupation, but who won't be formally Hamas cadre, who aren't, ideologically aligned with everything they're saying, aren't in their formal structures and so on. You think it goes beyond that?
I just think that any Palestinian who resists, and I don't just mean armed resistance, diplomatic resistance, legal resistance, narrative resistance through culture, any resistance is terroristic in the eyes of the Israelis. And so this idea of exterminating Hamas becomes a much broader category about exterminating any kind of person, Palestinian, who commits or is resisting the occupation. And so if I want to take it back to Hamas specifically, Hamas is an ideology. Let's imagine Hamas disappears tomorrow. We wake up and Hamas doesn't exist. The blockade is still going to be there. And the extermination of Palestinians will be ongoing. And there will be another reason for carrying out these kinds of atrocities. And Palestinians will create another force to resist, because Palestinians, as any colonized people, will resist their colonizer. And so the question around Hamas becomes a red herring. It's not actually about Hamas. It's about, can we maintain our rule unencumbered? Can we maintain our rule without ever getting any challenge from Palestinians? The only Palestinians that are allowed to stay and to be able to live not a normal life because they will be under occupation are pacified Palestinians who will go to work, come back, cook, feed their children, and accept Jewish supremacy in Palestine. Other than that, they're a terrorist that has to be eliminated. That's basically the equation. So Hamas, sure, we can talk about Hamas's military capabilities. I think it's been degraded, but I think Hamas still has arms. And if tomorrow the Israelis go back in, which they will confront asymmetric warfare. They will confront essentially a colonial insurgency. They will confront an armed force that is going against them, because there will always be people who will fight that insurgency, whether it's Hamas or another armed faction. It doesn't quite matter.
Can I come back on that? Because that's almost always the case throughout history, but there are some examples, like the Tamil Tigers, for instance, Sri Lanka, where guerrilla warfare of the kind you're describing hasn't succeeded. It has been decimated. And presumably there are people in Tel Aviv, IDF, people around Netanyahu who are saying that should be the goal.
It's not inevitable that Palestinians will liberate Palestine. I know it's a very hard thing to say, but I think it's important to understand that there are other indigenous peoples who have been exterminated. And it's not inevitable that Zionism will crumble. But I think what's important to say is that we can defeat Zionism, and we can get back into a situation where the Palestinians, even though they're militarily much weaker, in effective asymmetric warfare, liberate Palestine. And I think we are at that crossroads today, and I think that's why the Zionist regime is so freaked out, and I think that's why European powers are trying to basically get it out of the sort of the corner that it's painted itself in. Now, if there is a counterinsurgency in Gaza today, first of all, the Israelis are not good in counterinsurgency. Their power is aerial power and navy power. They do the gaming.
video games.
They do the gaming. They don't do field-to-field combat. There's a reason why the reservist number is dropping. There's a reason why reservists are committing suicide, because they understand that they've committed a genocide. They understand that they're future war criminals, and they understand that if they go back in Gaza, many of them will be killed. So that it's not a coincidence that starvation is used as a weapon of war, because our door-to-door combat on the ground, Hamas will always have the upper hand, just in terms of their ability to maneuver asymmetrically. So that's one thing. The second thing is Palestinians are not just in Gaza. You know, we are 12 million, 14 million actually, globally. And we are each responsible for liberation. Palestinians in Gaza are at the forefront. They're getting the brunt of Israel's genocide. But let's say the extermination and the quelling of the insurgency in Gaza is successful. You think Palestine is off the table? We're shaping the conversation in every capital in the world.
What about pre-Hamas? Because everything you were saying is so important. But the book that you wrote, I'm sure that you started by talking about history of Hamas. What happened? How was Israel functioning when Hamas wasn't there?
Well, the point that I'm trying to make about Hamas being a red herring is exactly that. If Hamas disappears tomorrow, nothing will change. Nothing will change. The blockade that started on the Gaza Strip was pre-Hamas coming to power. There's been 12 wars on Gaza since 1948. Hamas was created in 1987. This is not about Hamas. It's a red herring. This is a genocidal ideology that's committed to exterminating the Palestinian people to create a Jewish state in Palestine. It's that simple.
Before we wrap up, and the books are available to buy, I want to ask each of you, do you think things get worse before they get better? And what does that look like? What does it mean? I'll start with you, Ahmed.
I think for the short term, we will face a very bleak and dark future, we Palestinians. I do not think that tomorrow Palestine will be free. I do not think tomorrow the genocide will be over. The genocide is not over yet. The killing will continue. Even if Israel stopped killing the Palestinians, their proxies will continue to kill the Palestinians. Israel and the Israeli army and the Israeli leaders are professional in stalling and weaponizing time and finding new tactics and finding new ways of how to kill the Palestinians and destabilize the Palestinian people. And I think the Israelis are not satisfied with the way the genocide is over now. They will not just surrender. They will just find new ways on how to terrorize the Palestinians, kill them, destroy them, ethnically cleanse them. And I want to agree. I can't get enough of listening to you, Tareq, and I want to agree with him again.
What about me?
No,
What about me?
and you as well, Yara. The reason why the genocide will continue, the reason why the blockade will continue, is because the Palestinians are still in Palestine. And Israel is right. They think of me as a danger. They think of Yara and Tareq as a danger. We are the danger to Israel. We are the danger not because we are Hamas or we support the armed resistance, but because we are Palestinians. And Israel, their mentality, their ideology, they're common thieves. And they will not rest until all the Palestinians are gone. Until every single Palestinian in Gaza and the West Bank and Palestine 48 is gone. So they will not stop. Don't be deceived. They will not stop. They don't want to see any of us alive. They don't want to see any of the Palestinians in Gaza alive. And Hamas on October the 7th were just a pretext, a justification to continue what they have started 77 years ago, which is the total ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people in all of historic Palestine. And even when they're done with the historic Palestine, they will go to the
Greater
Lebanon, Greater Israel, and all of that. Because they are scared of us. They truly are scared of us. They don't like us to be in their borders because they know they have stolen our land and they will never have peace as far as we are alive. So I think Israel now, militarily, they're very powerful. They are very powerful. They will use their power, their military, to kill and intimidate and torture and besiege the Palestinian people, and they will not stop very time soon. On the long term, Israel has been defeated. And I say, Zionism can be defeated and it will be defeated.
Yes.
Zionism will be defeated. We will not allow it to win.
And Palestine will be free.
You will not allow Zionism to win. What you have seen, what you have watched, the world have watched a live stream genocide. You will not allow it to continue. You will not allow Israel to prosper and thrive on the blood of the Palestinian people and on their stolen lands. You will not allow it to happen. Listen, during the past 2 years, we have seen a movement, not a Palestinian movement, a movement for Palestine that erupted everywhere, all around the world. This movement will not be crushed. This movement will only grow and continue. And more people will stop being scared of being smeared as anti-Semite or whatever bullshit they used to silence us. We are no longer afraid. We are strong, we're courageous, we're brave. We will not be intimidated. You will not be intimidated. And again, I'm sorry I'm taking a long time. The Palestinians, yes, we will have very dark days to come, very dark years. But in the long run, we are winning. You are winning. And Israel has been defeated. Thank you.
I mean, I said it to some people, some right-wing journalists when this all started. I said every child that is killed is going to be a recruiting sergeant for Hamas or people that support armed resistance. And I think perfectly sensible people on the right, pro-Israel people, they knew that. Yara, your thoughts. Does it get worse before it gets better?
Does it get worse before it gets better? Well, in Quran, we have a verse. The verse says, Inna ma'al usri yusra. With every hardship will come ease. And I think that perfectly answers your question. I don't have the answer. I don't think that every hardship has an end to this hardship, because it's very hard for me to think that I will be joyful again after I lost my dad before the genocide. A year before the genocide, my dad died of a brain stroke suddenly at 55. I didn't see my dad for 6-7 years because I was stuck in Wales with the sheep. And then, well, I went to boarding school there, and that's why I came here. And I lived with 12 Israelis. How crazy is that? That was my first time ever meeting an Israeli. And one of the students, I don't want to give the name just because, why should we name the war criminals? We should give glory to our martyrs. You should remember the names like Ibrahim Lafi, whose birthday is tomorrow, my soulmate, my cameraman, my best friend, who was killed on October 7th. Tomorrow he would have been 23. And that's why I'm angry. Because I wanted him to be here. Because we planned that he's going to come and live in London with me. And we're going to be always reporting on Palestine together. But he was killed after the first aggression. We covered 2022 on the ground together, and then he was killed. And it's very hard to see where the ease will come. But I believe in God, and my God is telling me that there will be ease. And the only ease that will comfort this heart, this very broken heart, like many of you, is a free Palestine. And I genuinely believe that Palestine will be free, even in my lifetime. I don't want it to be only in my children's lifetime. Because I believe in the power of you guys. Honestly, I don't just believe in the power of us Palestinians. Yes, we're stubborn. We have sumud. Sumud is a word that talks about not just us as Palestinians, about our olive trees. We're rooted. We're resilient. Why do you think Palestinians love olives? It's not, Italians love olives too. Greece has olives too. But we have the best olives, guys. And if you debate me, I will be very angry. Palestinian olives are the best olives. You know why? Because with every olive tree that we planted, they killed probably 10. But we keep planting olive trees. And this is not just a metaphor. With every child that they killed, I didn't want kids. Now I want 12. And that's why I want you to make that little promise to yourself that within your lifetime, you will dedicate, if you don't want to dedicate your whole life, just dedicate a part of your life, because I dedicated my whole life to Palestine. And that's why I didn't become a musician or an artist, even though it was always my dream. And I became a war journalist. very different dreams, guys. Or a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor as well at some point. I wanted to be everything, but now I'm a war journalist, and we're doing it for a bit till Palestine is free, and then we can all be belly dancers. I don't care. But you know what? We need to get to that point first. We need to free Palestine. And I know that this audience will help us, and the people in the streets and the protests will help us, and Aaron being here interviewing us will help us. You're all here helping us. So go home, find your passion. If you're a doctor, see how you can help Palestinian doctors, tutor a Palestinian doctor, help a Palestinian medical student. If you're an artist, write a song about Palestine. If you're a chef, learn a Palestinian dish. If you're an owner of a business, support Palestinian businesses. And I can go on and on and on. If you're a university student, write about Palestine. If you're a lazy person, just watch a movie about Palestine. Eat Palestinian food, order Palestinian food.
Yara.
Wear your kufiyas, always. Never take your kufiyas off.
I'm mindful that people want to talk to you afterwards and get the book, so...
Yeah.
We'll
I'm angry, so it's okay.
No, it's fine. It's going to be remembered for posterity, don't worry. Thank you again to all three of you, and thank you all for coming. And as you said, there are so many things you can do, including getting this book.